Yo, what's up, guys? It's Austin here, or Luna. So today's story time, in my opinion, is a pretty crazy one. I hope you enjoy this. Leave a like on the video if you do, and let's jump right into this. So this story time takes place about a year and a half ago, okay? I was hanging out with two friends of mine at my friend's house, and me and these two friends all went to the same middle and high school, so we've been friends for a very long time, okay? Now, we had this principal in middle school for like a year. Let's just call him Mr. Mason, okay? Now, Mr. Mason was a very, very chill dude. He was probably one of my favorite principals in the world. Just a nice guy. Like, every time I get in trouble and sent to his office, he was always super respectful and, like, always very patient about, giving out punishments. He wouldn't, like, punish people right away. He'd usually give them a second chance. And he was a cool dude, to say the least, okay? And we hadn't seen him since middle school, and we'd always talk about how much we miss that dude, and we hope we run into him one day. And on this day, we didn't know it, but we were going to run into him. Not in the way that we expected, but we were gonna. So around this time, my friend had his birthday in like a week. So we were going to the club on this night to celebrate my friend's birthday early because that's what he wanted to do. And the funny thing is none of us were legally allowed to drink yet. We were going to this one club that did like a teen night thing every week. So one day out of every week, this club that we were going to did a teen night. So if you were 18 or over, you could go, but you couldn't drink. So you could basically go to the club if you were 18 or over, but you couldn't drink unless you were 21. So I don't know why my friend wanted to go so bad. Like, none of us were allowed to drink yet at this time. He wasn't even turning 21 for another week. So I didn't understand it, but you know what? It's my good friend. I'll do whatever he wants on his birthday. So we all got ready when the nighttime came along, and we went to the club together. And the first hour at the club was pretty normal. It was a pretty good time. But on the second hour, things got really boring and just loud, and I was getting anxious from all the people there. So I went up to the rooftop. This club had a really cool, like, rooftop lounge you can go chill on. So I went up there and I sat down in one of the booths, and all of a sudden I see someone really familiar overlooking the city. I see my old middle school principal just standing on this rooftop right next to me. He doesn't even know I'm there, and I'm watching him just look at the city from the roof. So I say his name. I'm like, Mr. Mason? And he looks at me like with shock. Like he probably hadn't heard that name in years. And he's like, Austin? I'm like, yeah, what's up, man? He's like, wow, like, I can't believe I'm seeing you right now. I'm like, yeah, you too, like, how have you been? He's like, good, who are you here with? I'm like, some friends from school, and I said their names. He's like, they're here right now? Like, get them up here, I gotta see them. I'm like, for sure. So I text them, all my friends come up there. We all start talking, just catching up with our old middle school principal. And he was pretty drunk, I can't lie. Like, this dude was definitely having a good time. He said he was there with his wife celebrating their anniversary, which made me laugh pretty hard because, like, it's not every day that you hear about two adults going to a club and partying for their anniversary. Like, unless they're, like, young adults. But, my principal was a little bit on the older side, so it was funny. Like, usually, they make a nice reservation, they get dressed up, they go to this dinner, and they have a nice, fancy dinner. But nah, not my middle school principal. That dude dressed up in some nice casual clothes with his girl, went to the club and partied. So after we talked to him for like 5 minutes, his girl came out from the bathroom and she was like, hey guys, like, how you doing? And we knew her. We met her before in school. She used to come in and visit sometimes for lunch. She was really cool. So we all talked for like 20 minutes total. And then after that, we said goodbye to them. They went back into the crowd, went to go party and celebrate their anniversary, whatever they were doing. So that was really cool. We were so stoked to see him. Like, we had always said that we wanted to run into him somewhere. So the fact that we finally ran into him and got to catch up with him was awesome. So me and my friends stayed at the club for like another hour, and then we got really tired of it, just really bored, and we wanted to leave. So we leave the club and we're waiting out front for our Uber, and all of a sudden we hear, hey guys, what's up? And we turn around and it's our middle school principal, Mr. Mason, with his wife. And this time he is like peak drunk. Like, I thought he was drunk before, but dude, this dude reached the max. Like, he was stumbling, his wife had to hold him up. He was definitely at his limit, and he was being so funny. He was like, guys, take my phone number, text me the address, let's keep this party going. And my friend was like, I'm sorry, Mr. Mason, but we're tired. He goes, tired? You guys are pussies, come on. And we started laughing. He was obviously joking around, but the security guard outside of the club standing by us thought that he was harassing us. He's like, hey man, you gotta back it up, like, stop harassing these random guys. So I told him, I'm like, no, like, he's our old principal, like, he's cool. And he's like, oh, well, he's making a scene, so he has to calm down. And Mr. Mason's like, calm down? I'm not causing a scene, you're just a puss. And the security guard goes, okay, like, move it along, buddy, like, call your ride home, let's go. And he walks over to Mr. Mason and kind of starts escorting him forward, like, away from the club. And he had his hand around Mr. Mason on his shoulder. And Mr. Mason did not like that. He did not want the security guard putting his hands on him. So he turned around and just pushed the security guard back into the door. And right when that happened, me and all my friends looked at each other, and we both just knew shit was about to go down. And next thing I know, the security guard runs back and pushes Mr. Mason, and they get into a full-blown fight right in front of this club. And the craziest thing is, like, there was a significant age difference between these two dudes. Like, the security guard was probably like 30 years old, and Mr. Mason was in his 50s. And Mr. Mason got him to the ground and got on top of him, and we pulled him off real quick because we weren't about to let our old middle school principal beat up some security guard. Like, it was just insane. Me, his wife, all my friends, we got involved, we ripped them off, we broke up the fight, we held them apart, and they were screaming at each other, cussing at each other, trying to go at each other even more. Like, they really wanted to fight, but we kept them far apart. And the security guard immediately whips out his phone and calls 911 and calls the police to the club. And we just knew what was about to happen. Like, if I had to take one guess at the time of what was about to happen, I knew the police were going to pull up, they were probably going to arrest Mr. Mason, or both of them, and the night was going to be over. So Mr. Mason's wife starts crying, and I go up to her, and I'm like, what's wrong? She's like, he's going to get arrested, I know he's going to go to jail, like, this isn't good. And I can't stand there and be like, oh, don't worry about it, if he gets arrested, no big deal. Like, it's obviously a big deal. So I'm trying to tell her, I'm like, just take deep breaths, like, worst comes to worst, they do arrest him, he'll probably only be in there for the night, I'm sure he'll get out next day. And she starts to calm down a little bit, and she's like, thank you. And next thing we know, the police pull up, they get out, they immediately ask what's going on. The security guard tells the whole story, and he didn't lie, he said it completely true, in detail, none of us could deny it. And next thing we know, Mr. Mason's getting handcuffed and put in the back of the car, and she's freaking out, his wife's just screaming and crying. But then the security guard said something that I did not expect. He was like, look, I don't want that guy charged for assault. He was way too drunk and just being crazy. Just arrest him for public intoxication. Throw him in the drunk tank for the night. Just arrest him for the night. Let him out when he's sober. It's not the first time someone drunk made a stupid mistake at this club. Like, it happens every night. I see it all the time. I don't want to press serious charges on him. And I just did not expect that. Like, this security guard was so angry when they were fighting. Like, he was trying to go back at him after we broke them up. So it really shocked me that the security guard was, like, showing sympathy and not wanting him to get the most punishment possible. Like, I really thought he'd be like, all right, throw him in there. Like, keep him in there as long as you can. But he was like, no, like, he was just drunk. He made a mistake. Keep him in there for the night till he sobers up. And yeah, that's what they ended up doing. I took down his wife's phone number, and the next morning I get a text from his wife, and she's like, hey, they locked him up for the night. He just got out. I just picked him up. Thank you guys so much for your help last night. I could have never broke them up without you guys being there. Like, you're lifesavers. Let's all get lunch sometime. And that's what we did. Like, 2 weeks later, me, my principal, my friends, and my principal's wife went to get lunch and just talk about the whole situation. And we catched up with my principal when he was sober, so now he would actually remember the conversation. He told us he barely remembered that night. He said the only thing he remembered was getting arrested. So yeah, it was good to see him sober and actually catch up this time. Moral of this story is don't act like my principal did in this story time. Don't do what he did. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much the end of the story time. I thought it was a pretty crazy one. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. Feel free to leave your story times in the comments down below. And subscribe if you're new. I'll see you all later. Peace.
And I'm like, what's up? They leave me out for the dead, and now they know they're fucked. All my texts are unread, that's how I know she's done. My life changed in a flash, all my friends gone, my friends gone.